All right, everyone, let's get going. Everybody, this will just be a short lecture as the last lecture, and then we'll split back into our groups for today's class. So I'll talk about a few things today. It's mostly about the presentation, but also about the model. So look, the first thing is that the model is up here on this table over here that you can see. Yeah. Now we won't be providing the insert. Contrary to my original email, we won't be providing an insert. So you guys can measure the hole and then make your model to suit. Okay. Now I'll show you how to do this after this lecture. A quick way to manually do that without having to rely on the digital file. Um, So the other thing is that it's worthwhile doing this early. I would actually do it today and just cobble something up today so that you can start using it in terms of you can start using this model for your to test your kind of preliminary 1 to 200 models. So I would encourage all of you to have a go at making a form model earlier rather than later, just so you can see what it looks like and how it sits on the site and so on and so forth. And it's also a really useful tool in order to help you to develop your designs, okay, to see what's going on. So it's much easier just to make a 1 to 200 form model on your existing plan, and then to test it against the actual site itself so that you can see what's going on. It's much faster than actually trying to get a 3D model correct and everything. They're limited in terms of course, in terms of detail, but at this stage, we want to test the big form. Patricia, there's seats up here in the front. Come up to the front, please. Okay, so that's the model thing. So use that. Yeah, it's here to be used. We're still kind of finishing it off a bit, but if it's not up here, it will be down in the workshop. So go down to the workshop to look at it. After hours, I will always bring it up here. So if you guys come when the workshop is closed, it will be in the studio for you to test your work on. Okay, so that's the first thing about the model. Any questions on the model? On presentation day, we'll have 3 of them, and so let me go straight then into presentation day. On presentation day, we'll have 3 concurrent groups. So Jack, Melanie, and myself will each have a panel, and because Melanie's group is so big, we're going to take off some people from Melanie's group to join other Jack's or my group, okay, in the presentation. And the process is basically that we will all start with the presentation at 9:30. Everybody will present according to their groups, and with Melanie's the students who aren't going to be in Melanie's group, then you'll know which group you're going into. And then once all the presentations have been done, we will get together to moderate the grades. Okay, so Melanie will play a big part in that, because Melanie will then have her say about her students that have presented to Jack and myself. Okay, so it's not this is don't worry about Melanie not having any input, because she will have crucial input during the moderation process. Now, each presentation panel is going to be made up of 3 reviewers. So, of course, your tutor or one of the tutors, and then another a full-time staff member from the faculty, and then an external person, generally someone with architectural training or practicing architect, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of people to get through. So what we will do is have a 5-minute presentation from each student, and then we'll give 5-minute feedback on the presentation of the student, and of course also on the panels that the student is presenting. You know what the limitations of the panels are, so that should be stuck to. But what you should also do is to practice what you're going to say, because 5 minutes isn't actually a long time to present something. So, but it is enough time for you to get your idea across. So what you need to do is you need to be focused and to get to the point very quickly. So if you want to write it out, so you can practice it, write it out, and then read it out to yourself. What the word number you should be aiming for is about 500 words. Yeah, 500 words. If you read that at a normal pace, that will be about 5 minutes. Okay, so if you want to clock yourself. But I think the main thing that you have to talk about really is the architecture that has been produced and what it is doing, and also the planning of your design. Okay, so what I would do is I would actually start with the development of the concept. Yeah, and these concepts, of course, are what has resulted in your final design. They're not necessarily the concepts that you explored in assignment 2. Okay, so concepts change over time, and I know some of you have really pushed the original concepts, and it's worked very well for you. Others of you have moved on to other concepts because of issues with the original concepts that you dealt with. Both of those approaches is absolutely fine. There's no compulsion on you to have to stick to your original concepts. But if you're working with your original concepts, I think, let's say it's probably too late now to change concepts. So whatever you're working with, I would just stick with that from now, moving on in. So in terms of the criteria, the grading criteria, the big ones, as I said, was the architectural language of your design and the layout. The next big one is actually the understanding of context. So you got to talk about quickly about how your design relates to the site and the surrounds and the general context. And really, I suppose all those sketch diagrams that you had about how to deal with sun, with rain, with noise, with access, and so on and so forth. As I've said in the handout, you can put your design into those little diagrams, but don't dwell on that, right? What you want to do quickly is get to the concept that's actually generating your architecture. There is also a 10% 10% of the grade will be about sustainability. So now that you've done sustainable environmental techniques, please use the knowledge you have from there in developing your designs. Okay. Now, what you have to remember is that your verbal presentation is really a reiteration of what is already on the panel. So really, it is kind of like a roadmap for us to be reading your panels. Your panels should really stand up by themselves. You're just pointing us to which points, to which part of the panel is which part, but it should all really be there already, so that when we are moderating it later, we will, of course, not have you there to explain stuff. So your panels need to stand up by themselves without you being there to explain to us. Remember that this is a visual medium, so keep your text to a minimum. Of course, you need to have some text. You need to have drawing titles. You might need to actually tell us what the concept is, but be very, very brief with those things. Graphics are a much better way to communicate those things in the design studio. So now going back to the presentation date, we announced that the presentation date has been moved from the Tuesday, which is the what was Tuesday, the 6th of November, to Friday the 9th of November, because a lot of you have an exam on at 9 o'clock on the Wednesday for history. Now, for those of you who still want to present on the Tuesday, that's absolutely fine. We've got no issue with that. We already have a few students who are presenting on the Tuesday because they won't be able to be here on the Friday. So please let us know so we can so we know how long Tuesday's session is going to go for. Anyone thinking about presenting on the Tuesday rather than the Friday that hasn't already talked to us? Okay, so just make sure that you tell your tutors that you want to present on the Tuesday rather than a Friday, and we'll make it happen. Now, just to be clear on the moderation panel will basically be the 3 tutors as well as the guest reviewers. So the staff from inside the faculty, as well as our practitioners who are coming to look at it. So basically, what you'll have is probably about sort of 7 or 8 people, which will form a panel, which will basically go around to look at all the work and then come to an agreement as to the grading standard based on our comments as well, because we know you guys better and we know what's happened through the semester. So we will be in there putting your case forward as well to the panel. But at the end of the day, all of the grades for this assignment need to be agreed upon by the entire panel, so that we get what you call parity or an equality of grading across all of the students. Okay, so this basically also means that all your work should be left up until 5:30 on Friday. So after 5:30 on Friday, you guys can come and pick up your work. For those of you who are presenting on Tuesday, you'll be able to take down your work take down your work 2 hours after the last presentation, because Jack, Mel, and I will have to talk about it, and then actually no, we'll hang on to your work. So for those who are presenting on Tuesday, we'll hang on to your work so we can take it to the moderation on Friday for parity. Okay. Any questions on this process? Okay, all good. Anyway, if there's anything, if you have any other questions about this, please ask Jack or Melanie or myself. Now, finally, in terms of extra help, I will be available over the next until presentation day on Friday. So if you want to see me, you can, and this is for all students, right? Not only my group, but for Jack's group and Mel's group as well. If you want to see me to ask questions or to give an opinion about your work and so on and so forth, please come and see me. So you can either email me to make a date or knock on my door, and I may well be free. If I'm free, I will see you immediately. If not, we will make a time. Okay? Or if I'm walking through the studio, if you're working in here and I'm walking through the studio, feel free to pull me aside and ask me a question. I will deal with things as quickly as I can and as immediately as I can. If I can't, then I'll make a time to come and talk to you guys. Okay. Now that's me. So every weekday until next Friday, I'll be around, except for this Thursday when I will be on strike. Okay. This is so I'm just lucky that I'm able to be on strike. Mind you, when I go on strike, I don't get paid, so I'm having 1 day of my pay docked because I'm choosing to go on strike. So I won't be working at the university on that day. If you're coming to uni, you might see me at the picket, so you can wave to me and stop, have a chat to me. at the front gate. I'll be the one with the purple T-shirt. Oh wait, everyone will have a purple T-shirt, but yes. Okay, so look, this is the kind of the last push. So we've got basically a week and a half to push through. We need to use it. We need to use it efficiently and effectively. So what I would say is that if you need to talk to somebody, make sure you do it sooner rather than later. Moving in from here, there's no more stupid question. Every question is a good question. Okay, so for us, if you are actually asking a question to clear up something that's going to make your design or your presentation better on the presentation day, then that's what we want. All right. Now, Jack, do you want to add anything to that? You might have to come up here so the voice gets recorded.
Not much. I guess I should have by this time everyone's got some sort of scheme happening. So today is probably one of the last opportunities to push your design further, so that the more matured and then finished product you're actually presenting on the presentation day. So if you don't have the scheme yet, you have to quickly come up and visualize what you want to make your final product look like. Yeah, so that if you start thinking about the toilet partitions and pans and basins, those little services detail which we don't really care until the last minute. Okay, if you don't have the time, just forget about those little details and then picture look at from the bigger picture. So you have to have a vision of your final product as a big envelope, and then once you getting some sort of firm idea and gets into these details. Yeah, but if you don't have these big pictures, you can't actually get into these toilets. Yeah, so just think about it. If you don't have anything yet, just think about what your final product look like as a starting, and then gets into the inside. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. I think that is really good advice, and one of the easiest way to visualize things is through small models. Okay, through the 1 to 200 models, so you can quickly knock something up by hand, and you can test it against the site, and then from there you will then go and do your final model, which there's no limitation on how you on how to do your final model, but please remember that your design has to be right. Otherwise, no quality of models is going to be good enough if the quality of your design idea is not right. Melanie, do you want to say something?
I guess I'll be in on Friday, I guess.
Or come around here, Melanie. That's probably the best.
Yeah, I came in Friday last week for both my tutorial groups, but I'll be in on Friday again, and I might run through some presentation techniques rather than one-on-one crits. But if you want to see me during that time quickly, because I just think at that point you should have a solid idea, and I don't want to derail any of you by giving too much more, too little. So that will happen here on Friday morning, 9:30. Just go through some basic techniques for like text size and that sort of thing, some real basic presentation techniques. So if any of you are keen, just show up. You don't have to be in my tutorial group, but again, if you are in my tutorial group and you need to see someone during the week, please see John or email me. Otherwise, yeah, cool.
All right, so that's the end of the lecture, but what I'll do now is I'll just go through quickly on the model over here as to how to make the base without actually needing to use those digital files. Okay, so a full manual version of how to make the base. Okay, so gather around the model if you could. Thanks, everyone.